At E3 in 2018, Todd Howard stood in front of a crowd at Bethesda's conference and unveiled their brand new Fallout game, Fallout 76. But unlike its predecessors that were single-player RPGs, 76 was a completely online game, and was advertised as a Fallout adventure with your friends, allowing you to explore the post-apocalyptic wasteland of West Virginia to your heart's content. But that is where the trouble began. We all know the controversy that surrounded Bethesda after 76's release, from the endless amount of bugs to the play-to-win microtransactions, and of course the highly sought-after canvas bag. It's only now that Fallout 76 is becoming a playable game, but is it too little, too late? To some, it was. Bethesda's games have always been well known to be buggy at launch, but players were sick of their games being almost unplayable, and the fact that it was a Fallout game was an even bigger offence to the fanbase. Looking back at Bethesda's older titles, it's interesting to see how we ended up here. Bethesda has always made their games a certain way, and that gameplay design hasn't changed since the days of Morrowind. It's no dispute that Bethesda has made some incredible innovations when it comes to open world RPGs, but those same RPG mechanics that were present in their older games are non-existent in their newer titles. Look at Oblivion, Skyrim and Fallout 3. All these games have dialogue options for the player to choose from, and depending on the different perks and stats you've acquired and upgraded throughout your playthrough, allows you interesting dialogue options and conversations. Take those compared to Fallout 4, which only gives you one-word options, and sometimes your character will say something completely different to what you selected. In fact, Fallout 4 went completely opposite direction to the rest of Bethesda's RPG titles. It was more action-focused. While previous Fallout games didn't have the best shooting or combat mechanics by a long shot, hence why using VATS was such an important factor in combat, Fallout 4 doesn't even need VATS unless you want to see the close-up of your enemies' heads being blown apart. This brings me to Fallout New Vegas, which is universally considered to be the best modern Fallout game, but New Vegas wasn't even developed internally at Bethesda. Instead it was developed by Obsidian Entertainment, the same people behind Fallout 2 and the upcoming Outer Worlds. Fallout New Vegas took the foundation that Fallout 3 had built and went crazy with it. New Vegas has so many different ways to play, it closely resembles classic RPGs like Fallout and Fallout 2, where you can build your character however you wanted to and the skills that you specialise in work seamlessly into the gameplay. This is the same for the quests. Most quests in New Vegas are pretty open-ended and you have more than one way in completing those quests. This is completely opposite to the way Bethesda does quest design. I've said this before in my review of Skyrim in 2019. Here, have a listen. Now, don't get me wrong, the way Bethesda does quests is a bit bare bones. They do allow for player expression, but most of the time it's an illusion of choice. What do I mean by this? Well, while Bethesda is incredible when it comes to building worlds and memorable characters, their quests are usually pretty forgettable. They usually involve fetching an item from somewhere, or hunting down a person or monster and talking to them, or maybe even killing them. Sometimes you'll be asked a question and your decision might seem like it will change the world around you, but most of the time it doesn't. In the main quest line, your decisions sometimes will change what happens in the game world, but side quests usually not. A good example of how Bethesda does its quests is the main quest in Fallout 3. The main quest can be finished pretty quickly if you know which direction to go in, but 99% of the time everyone's experience of the main quest will be exactly the same. The only difference is if you wander off to do side quests or not. Everyone will always find your dad, join the Brotherhood of Steel, and defeat the Enclave. Even if you try and join the Enclave, the game just ends. There is no possible way to do things differently. But in New Vegas, everything can be changed. It all depends on which faction you decide to join and if you help them or not while doing side quests. In the end, everyone's playthrough is different, and the decisions you make while playing the game really matter. But it's not surprising that Fallout New Vegas is a much better Fallout game than anything Bethesda has released. Obsidian is made up of some of the former developers that worked on Fallout 2. They know what Fallout is meant to be, a post-apocalyptic RPG, and they tried their best to make the most authentic Fallout experience using Bethesda's engine and assets from Fallout 3. It's almost incredible that New Vegas was released at all. Obsidian was given 1 year to develop the game, and every decision had to be brought to Bethesda for confirmation. This is because Obsidian was trying to make an RPG, not a shooter like Bethesda would make Fallout out to be in later games in the series. Fast forward to E3 2015. Everyone was excited to play Fallout 4. It had been 5 years since the last Fallout game, and fans couldn't wait to see what Bethesda had planned for the next game in the series. I can still remember Todd Howard standing up on stage and showing off what Bethesda had been creating. I remember being filled with excitement and awe. Fallout 4 looked incredible. And to be fair, it is an incredible game. I've put a lot of hours into it. Oh god, have I put a lot of hours into it. but it was missing what fans liked about Fallout for a long time. It was missing those core RPG mechanics that New Vegas had done so well. Instead, it was more of an action/exploration game, focusing more on combat than role-playing. I am going to make a video on Fallout 4 at some point, but for now I'm just going to say that this was the point that Bethesda started to change the way they develop games. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, Fallout 76. 76 is meant to be the multiplayer part of Fallout 4, and it shows when you play the game. It looks and plays exactly like it. But the fundamental difference is of course in the multiplayer side of it. Having additional players running around the world ruins the experience of an open world RPG. This is why NPCs weren't even in the game until most recently. Bethesda wanted to see what players would do if the only people they could interact with in the game was other players. But this failed spectacularly. Without interesting quests or characters that have been the main part of the Fallout series since the beginning, there was no real reason for players to continue playing the game. And even though Bethesda had fixed many of the problems that 76 had at launch, it's still too late. The damage has been done. But this gets me thinking about the future of both the Fallout and the Elder Scrolls series. Bethesda have always been masters in creating incredible worlds for players to explore and discover. There's no disputing that. And even Fallout 76 has its moments. I have had legitimate fun playing that game and I'll probably end up going back to it at some point. What I am worried about is Elder Scrolls 6 and maybe Fallout 5. These are two games near and dear to my heart, and the same goes for many other fans out there. I want these games to go back to the core RPGs they once were, to focus more on story-driven narratives with player choice rather than action-adventure games. That's what these series have always been, and I hope they stay that way. Bethesda as of late seems to be chasing trends like adding a Battle Royale mode to Fallout 76, but that's not the Bethesda I know. The Bethesda I know creates incredible worlds for me to discover and explore, to get lost and immersed in. Hopefully the next games Bethesda releases will be more like those classic RPGs we all so fondly remember. One can only hope.